Hello and welcome to Answer Perfect. Today I'm going to take you through an 8-mark synoptic question for A-level PE. Now this question is going to include drag, so a biomechanical principle, and confidence, part of the psychological content. So let's see what the question has to hold. Okay, so today I'm going to take you through this 8-mark A-level PE question. It's a synoptic question, so it's got 2 topic areas. So it's explain the importance of confidence and drag for a swimmer. Now I will take you through these boxes, how we break down the question and how we structure our perfect answer using that ideas framework you'll see at the bottom. But I will go through this when we look at how to structure that answer. So the first bit I thought I'd go through, and you're probably thinking, blimey, there's a lot on this page. So when you get a synoptic question, this is where they're looking for a blended answer. So they're not looking for what you know on drag and then what you know on confidence and just putting it under the same question as your answer. They are asking for you to explain it together. Okay, so maybe how something impacts the other, or how it relates, or whether one has more of an impact than the other on the outcome, which for this question is a swimmer. So if we focus on the left hand side of the screen, I thought I would do a little bit of a mind map for both areas so that we can touch upon content, so that when we apply it to the question it makes more sense. So drag. This is when, if you look there, it says forces acting in opposition to the motion. So if an object or a body is moving in one direction, there are always going to be forces acting against it, okay, usually to slow it down. Now in the biomechanics area here, there are 2 types of drag. We've got form drag and we've got surface drag. Now let's look at form drag. So form drag is the impact, okay, of the fluid environment on an object. Now I don't just think fluid being a liquid. Fluid environments, or fluid mechanics, is the movement or of a body or an object travelling through any liquid or gas. So basically, think of a cyclist going through wind, think of a swimmer going through water. It is both form drag, okay? So this is the impact of the air or the water on the swimmer or the cyclist. Now, what kind of things, if you think about those 2 examples, could we do to reduce our form drag? Well, we've got in cycling, we've got shaped helmets. So the shape of helmets has changed to allow for faster airflow over the helmets so that the cyclist can sprint on the bike faster with less effort required. Okay. If you think about I've put streamlined shape there. This could be in the water when we're swimming. It could be as we dive into the water in that glide position, or when we've done a turn and we're gliding off the wall. It could be the streamlined shape when a cyclist perhaps is going downhill, okay, and you see them crouched over as small as they can get, and they kind of have an arch in their backs that the air can flow over them. Cyclists also use that slipstream. You'll often see cyclists not wanting to be at the front, so they either, on the indoor, they end up going up the track to then drop back in behind the front runner, or they sometimes do a peloton, okay, that triangle shape. Now this is because if you're the person at the front and you're getting that full whack of air, okay, there's going to be a lot of form drag hitting you. If you are behind, that means the air is less turbulent. That means if you think of a plane and you're going over turbulent air, it's very bouncy and you end up all over the place. Well, if you're behind that, there's less turbulent air, which means you'll actually go through a lot easier. Now you'll find when you have a group of cyclists or a team of cyclists, they work together to make sure that they can change who's at the front, because that person at the front has got to work a lot harder than the people behind. Okay, so they take it in turns to kind of have a rest. So that person's taking the full brunt of the air hitting them, and the people behind are able to slipstream behind them. Okay, let's have a look at surface drag then. This is when there is friction between the surface of an object, that could be an object or a person, and the environment. Okay, now think of Cyclists, they wear them tight lycra cycling suits. Okay, this means that the air can travel over them better, so there's less friction, so less surface drag. If you think of a swimmer, they wear half-body swimsuits. They used to be able to wear full-body swimsuits with a certain shark skin style fabric. However, these got banned because they were making the swimmers too fast in the water. Okay, the swimsuit material was just too water resistant, which meant they could swim through so quick. Okay, so they are limited to a half-body swimsuit. And you're probably thinking, well, what about the men? They don't wear anything up top. And what about lower legs? Well, this is where you'll find that most swimmers, well, pretty much all elite athlete swimmers at the top level, will shave every ounce of body hair possible. If they've got any hair left on their head, that's where they wear a swimming hat to reduce the surface drag there. So everything possible to reduce any friction that may happen. Now, there are three main factors which can affect drag. That is the velocity of the object, so how fast that object or that body is travelling at. Obviously, the greater the velocity, the greater the drag force against them. Their cross-sectional area. So if you think of streamlining, they want to make themselves as small as possible. So if you've got a cyclist coming towards you and you think of their cross-sectional area, that is their frontal view. What do they look like? If they were to stick their arms out wide to the side, they're going to have a greater cross-sectional area than if their arms were tucked in nice and tight. You've then also got your surface characteristics. So what is the surface like? Have we got hairy legs? Or have we got a surface on some clothing that helps airflow to just travel over it faster? Or is it the shape of the surface? So, for example, the helmets. All of these will impact the drag forces that are acting in opposition to the object or the body moving. Now, there are two types of confidence that have been identified. These are state and trait confidence. So trait confidence is your level of confidence on your belief in your ability to do well in a range of sports. So, for example, if I'd been very successful in a recent football game, this would have increased my trait confidence, and therefore I would be more confident when undertaking other sports such as rugby, swimming, cycling. Okay. If I was to look at state confidence, then this is when it refers to a specific situation. Revision tip: begins with an S, therefore it's easier to remember that it's the specific one. Okay. So it's your belief in your ability to master a specific sporting moment. For example, taking a penalty in football. Okay. Now this is going to increase your state confidence the next time you are taking a penalty in a football game. Okay. This type of confidence can be temporary, but it can also vary depending on the interaction of experience and personality, so state and trait personalities as well. Okay, it's very specific to a particular moment in time. Let's have a look then at the Veely model of sports confidence. This is where there is an influence of trait confidence and state confidence, the situation and the competitive orientation of a performer. Now, the competitive orientation is how much a performer is drawn to challenging situations. Okay, so think of most of the time, it's easy to remember, competitive elements are usually more challenging than just playing a game with your friends. Okay. Veely suggested that confidence gained in one area of sport could be used to improve confidence in other areas, which obviously is trait confidence. Okay. Now, if we think of the two different types, state confidence, then that's where a performer does well in one specific situation. It's been suggested that these two can combine to produce a level of confidence in an objective sporting situation. Okay, so the objective sporting situation is the combination of the type of skill being performed and the situation that it's taking part in. If a skill had been successful in the past, so for example someone taking a penalty in football, then that person's trait and state confidence would be high. The objective situation also takes into account conditions that the skill was formed in. So if the score was a draw and maybe this was in the 91st minute, the game was about to end, so this penalty was crucial, or perhaps there was a large crowd, or maybe it was the FA Cup final, who knows, then the result or the outcome of the player's performance in this penalty would be evaluated. The player would then recall to what they've done before, okay, and make a judgment. They would make a subjective judgment, and this would influence the confidence that they would then have in this situation where they're about to take a penalty. If the judgment is good, okay, then their trait confidence would increase, and also their competitive orientation would increase. Now, the competitive orientation is how much somebody is drawn to challenging situations. Okay, so if they develop a competitive orientation because they've done well in those really competitive, tense moments in a game, then their confidence is going to increase, and it means next time they're going to want to take on that confidence, take on that penalty in another game at a tense moment. If their subjective outcome is bad, so they didn't do well in a penalty last time they played, then their trait confidence and their competitive orientation decreases. If you miss that penalty at that moment in time when it was a win or a draw or a loss situation, you're not going to be confident enough next time the pressure's on to do that, are you? Okay. Now, if we think about self-efficacy from Bandura's theory, that also is the same as state confidence. It is specific confidence, well, it's confidence specific to a sporting situation. Okay. Now, Bandura has 4 things that can influence how much our confidence increases. They are performance accomplishments, so how well you've done in the past or past experiences. Okay, vicarious experiences, so that's the influence of watching others doing the same thing and being successful, so having that model effect. Okay, then there is something called verbal persuasion, so that could be encouragement, maybe praise from others, maybe your coach, your peers, spectators. So if someone gives you that really nice, oh, well done today, you've done really well, or that was a great tackle, that was a great goal, then you're obviously going to be buzzing and your confidence is going to increase. And then you've also got emotional arousal. So that's dealing with the emotion in the sport. So can you keep calm, maintain your control? Can you still do your game tactics when you're close to getting a big win, maybe in that FA Cup football final? All of those are key to having good performance. Okay. Now, if we think about our confidence, then Bandura said that all 4 of these can have an influence on our self-efficacy. Okay. If they're positive, then our confidence is going to be increased or improved. Okay. Now, I'm going to go on to the question again. So this is where we look at how we break them down. It says, explain the importance of confidence and drag for a swimmer. It's worth 8 marks. Remember, this is a synoptic question. So that means, an examiner told me this, that the response needs to be blended. Okay. So you can't just stick all your drag stuff together and all your confidence together. It needs to overlap and interlink a little bit. So I've underlined in green the command word of this question, and that means explain. Now, when it's an explain question, you always need to say how and why things happen. The topic, well, it's a synoptic question, so it's going to have 2 or more topic areas you need to focus on. This will be confidence and drag. You then would need to apply it to a specific situation, and in this case the question talks about swimming. Now, I'll explain the relevance of the focus area in a minute, but I'll quickly just recap our ideas framework. Okay, so we need to be able to identify, okay, so that's short answer, key terms, keywords, so that'll be things like what is confidence, what is drag. Then we need to be able to describe the main characteristics, the details of any processes, main points. Then we need to be able to explain, so this is where you give reasons why something's occurred or hasn't occurred, how things happen, why something happened, and usually it's detailed sentences. You then need to remember to apply it to the topic area, or areas in this case, and focus using examples relating to the focus area. Okay. Then you always need to make sure you're being specific. So you're doing a PE course, therefore your answers need to apply to specific sporting examples. In this question, it is swimming, so you need to make sure any examples you're giving relate to a swimmer. Okay. It's an explain question, so in the yellow box I've put some connective words to help connect your sentences together, such as therefore, the impact of this, because, as a result. So let's have a look at how we break down the question then and make sure we have enough content to cover the AO1, AO2 and AO3 aspects of the course. Explain the importance of confidence and drag for a swimmer, and it's worth 8 marks. So I've split this into 2 boxes. We're going to focus first on the left hand side of the screen, the blue box, and then I will go on to the right hand screen. So the first thing we need to do is identify and describe. So AO1 is the knowledge part of the answer, and this is worth 2 marks maximum of the 8. But it's 25% of your question, okay, and all you have to do is write down everything you know about confidence and drag in terms of key terms, so main points. Ignore that red box, there might be a lot of information, but we'll come to that in a minute. So we've got all our key terms here, and I've tried to make the key terms very specific to the topic area, focus area being swimmer. Okay, so form drag, that's resistance of the shape to the water. So remember that this is, if you're thinking, oh god, that doesn't make much sense to me, it's the impact of the water on the body, the person swimming. Okay. Then we've got surface drag, response to the swimmer, that's the resistance of the skin to water. Confidence in general is the belief to succeed. We've then got self-efficacy, which is specific self-confidence. We've then got state confidence, which is your belief in your ability to master a specific sporting moment. Then we have trait confidence, which is your belief in your ability to do well in a range of sports. We can then write down 2 things from the Veely model, which is the competitive orientation. This is how much somebody is drawn to challenging situations. So they like the tense moments where they're at a draw and they need a win to progress to the next round maybe, or they like taking penalties. They love that competitive element. We've also got the objective sporting situation. That is when the performer takes into account the situation. So that is a combination of skill and the situation. All of that will get you 2 marks. Easy, okay, as long as you know your key terms. That is an important revision tip there. Make sure you know your key terms. Then we've got across in the red box, this is where I've put the AO2 and AO3, because this is where you go into your explain, your apply and being specific. AO2 is your application. This is where you write down as many examples as you can relating to the topic area and the focus. Okay. Now an examiner said to me, in this is worth 3 marks maximum, but if you are too broad and general in your examples, you will not get the marks. So if it is asking you about a swimmer, you make sure you mention swimming or a swimmer in every example that you give. So this is where we would talk about how confidence and drag can affect a swimmer, or perhaps what they could do to reduce the drag effect. So we would talk about surface drag. We would mention that a swimmer, to reduce surface drag, might use a half body swimsuit. They might shave their body hair, and they might wear a swimming hat, okay, to minimise surface drag. To reduce form drag, they would need to make sure they are swimming in a streamlined shape. And this is particularly important in swimming when they are doing a start, so they've just dived into the water, and when they're doing a glide push off from the wall after a turn. You might want to bring in here performance accomplishments, so you might say that past success and enjoyment increases confidence at the next event. Give an example. So if they've had a lot of success perhaps in the heat of their swimming events, when it gets to the final, that's going to have a knock-on effect with their confidence, and they're going to have an increase of confidence in the final round. Okay. You can also look at your trait confidence. So I've put there gained in other sports. So if the swimmer takes part in a netball game and has a lot of success, that confidence gained there, so that trait confidence, can be used to improve confidence in the swimming event. Okay. Past success can increase both state and trait confidence. We would then look at the AO3, the analysis thing. This is where you need to really delve into the question, so explain how important confidence and drag is for a swimmer. Okay. Now, we can go into a little more detail here. Remember, this section is worth 3 marks maximum. Okay. So, how does a swimmer reduce effects of drag? So, a swimmer would need to reduce the effects of drag by their clothing. So that is the swimsuit that they wear. So a swimmer is going to prefer to wear a half-body swimsuit because that will reduce the effect of surface drag. If it's a female swimmer, they're going to need to wear a swimming hat to reduce the impact of the hair. They also will shave any remaining hair off the skin. They would need to make sure that they swim in a streamlined shape. Remember, the greater the velocity of the swimmer in the water, the greater the effect of drag force. Therefore, we need to reduce the drag force as much as possible by 4 things for a swimmer. This means if we reduce the drag force, less effort is required to swim at the same speed. Okay, so if less effort is required, we can maximise velocity, we can maximise the speed that they can swim at, which obviously is going to increase the chance of winning. So that's the importance of drag there for a swimmer. The more we can reduce it, the less effort is required, or the less effort is required, which means we can maximise velocity to increase the chance of winning. Okay. Then we would go on more to focus then about confidence and the Veely model. So you could say the Veely model suggested that the objective sporting situation is a combination of the skill and the situation. If a swimmer has been successful at front crawl previously, their trait and state confidence would be high. Okay. If they did this well previously, perhaps in front of a crowd, this would increase their trait confidence in future races. The swimmer would then evaluate conditions, and if their subjective outcome was good, their trait confidence would increase, and the swimmer would develop a competitive orientation, meaning they would be prepared to compete and try harder, okay, which is going to increase their confidence and more likely to be successful in this specific race. If their subjective outcome was bad, their trait confidence would decrease and their competitive orientation would decrease. Okay. Now, that is enough there really for your 3 marks. Okay. You need to make sure that you've said how and why, which we have done. We've said some specific examples to a swimmer for confidence and drag. We've also at the start of the question said how or what the key terms were for everything we could think about for confidence and drag. Now remember, when you do your answer, so when you're creating the perfect answer, remember your ideas. Start with your identify and describe. So identify your key terms and describe them. That's your AO1, your knowledge. What do you know? Then AO2, application. Specific. How do you apply it specifically to the focus area of the question? In this case was swimming. Then your AO3, and analyse it. Now this question was explained, so you need to say how and why confidence and drag are important for a swimmer. Okay. Now remember, for an 8-mark question, AO1 is worth 2 marks maximum, AO2 is worth 3 and AO3 is also worth 3 marks maximum. Good luck, and I hope this video helped you to break down this particular synoptic question on drag and confidence, but also showed you how to break down every 8-mark question that might get asked in your exam. Good luck, and if you want any more information or want to check out a video on how to break down a 15-mark question, head to our YouTube page at Answer Perfect with a PE in the perfect, or go to our Twitter feed at answer_perfect, PE being capitals again. Our website is going to be launched in July, which is answerperfect.co.uk, where you'll be able to access videos for the whole course. Goodbye and good luck.